Good morning, everyone. Britt Simon here. Just wanted to jump online and take some of your questions about DV lottery. We're at an interesting point of the year. The DV 2024 program is about to end. It will end on Monday, at the end of the day on Monday. And we also have DV 2025, which will start the very next day after that, the 1st of October. Interviews for DV 2025 are already scheduled for October and November. So there will be interviews from the very beginning of the month. And of course, then DV 2026 entry period is about to open as well. So we're talking about 3 different years of lottery that can be going on. And some people will probably still ask about DV 2020 and 21. So it's really important, if you're going to ask me a question, please do give me your year, your region, and the case number. Not just the case number. The case number by itself is meaningless because the same number can appear in each of the regions. Okay, so I need to know your case number with the year and the region. Okay, just as it shows in all the documentation. So 2025 AF 12345, like that. Okay. Or in fact, you don't have to give me the precise numbers. So if you're AF 12345, you would probably just say 2025 AF 12XXX. Okay. All right. Let's see who's already tuned in. Waguti is already tuned in. Good. So is Patrick and Mukhtar. So let's start with some questions. Nairobi embassy hasn't sent any 2NLs. What might be the problem, kindly? I don't know. I don't even know that your statement is a true statement. You may not have got any 2NL. It doesn't mean nobody got a 2NL. So we'll have to see if that's really a true statement. We won't know that until we get the SEAC data. And we probably won't have the SEAC data until January the 1st, which is the same way it's worked for many years. Okay, so, but even if your statement is true, I don't know what what the individual embassies do month to month, so I can't tell you about that. Okay. Yes, sir. DV 25 and 26 finna go crazy. Let's start a newsletter project, Mr. Britt. Yeah, absolutely. We should do that. You should certainly get a start on that. I know you wanted to, so go ahead and do that. Isam says one DV 24 AS 24K didn't win DV 25. Will be applying for DV 26. Absolutely. And just to be clear, anybody can apply for DV 2026. It doesn't matter if you're a DV 2025 winner, 24, or whatever else. It won't affect any other year, right? So even if you're waiting in DV 2025, it's not a bad idea for a bit of insurance. Just go ahead and apply for DV 2026. And some people are chosen more than 1 year. So, it's just part of the random nature of the draw. Okay. Hey, buddy, it's too late to submit my DS260 at the end of this month, AF44K. Why is it too late? Are you is too late? No, you're not. You're not telling me. You're asking me. No, it's not too late to submit a DS260 for DV 2025. For DV 2024, yeah, it's obviously too late. But for DV 25, no, that's fine. You can submit. Your case number at 44K is going to wait for a few months anyway. So you'll probably find your DS260, if you submit it fairly soon, will probably be processed before your case is current. But even if it isn't, it doesn't matter. It will just mean that you're delayed a month or so, and you'll be scheduled as soon as the DS260 is processed. So don't worry about it. Just go ahead and submit the DS260. By the way, if you're waiting to submit your DS260 because you don't have your passport, for example, that isn't a reason to wait. You should have submitted anyway. You didn't have to wait for that reason, right? So depends. Depends what the reason is that you're waiting. Okay. Okay. Hassan says, hi, I have a wife. We married Islamic way, but we don't have marriage certificate. What we do if we won? Thanks. If you win, you'll have to get married legally. So you shouldn't enter as married if you're not legally married, unless in your country the Islamic marriage is treated with the full legal position of marriage, right? It has the same rights, etc. If that's the case, then you can say you're married. But if you can't have any paperwork to prove that you're married, then frankly, it's a dangerous thing to say that you're married. I would rather you say you're unmarried if there's no paperwork. If there's literally, if I don't know your country, I don't know the laws in your country, right? So I don't really know exactly your situation. You are going to have to apply some common sense and think about this a little bit. But if in your country Islamic marriage means walking out to the street and saying I'm married, or standing in front of a religious person and saying that you want to get married or whatever, and that's it, that is nothing that you can prove to the US government. Okay, so there has to be some sort of legal documentation behind that to prove on what day did that ceremony take place. Do you have the same legal rights as a married person? Are you in fact legally married? So when you enter the lottery, for goodness sake, don't be an idiot. Apply for the lottery with the correct marital status. Way too many people get disqualified every single year because they think they can, gain some sort of advantage by using a different marital status. It's a very stupid thing to do. If you're legally married, say you're married. If you're legally married and your partner is not living with you because you've had an argument and you've split up, you're still freaking married, right? Unless you got divorced, you're married, right? If you got married legally, you have to get unmarried legally in order to say you're unmarried. If you're separated from each other, there is a status on the entry form that talks about being separated, but it only refers to legal separation, where you have been to a legal court and you've got paperwork to prove that you are in a status of separation. Separation doesn't mean that your wife went to live somewhere else. That's not what separation is, right? Separation is only done if it's a legal separation. And in all other circumstances, if you are married and you haven't terminated the marriage legally, then you are still married and you have to enter your spouse. And if you don't do that, disqualification will be the result. Will be the result. Bear that in mind, okay? Hello, Britt. How are you doing, sir? I love your program. I got my visa last week from Sierra Leone. Awesome. Glad to hear it. MC Starboy. Hair by Dennis. I could do with your services, Hair by Dennis. What would you suggest I do with this? Hair by Dennis. Hi, Mr. Simon. For example, if any cousin has, where's my phone? It's going off. If any cousin has problems in the US, does that affect my DV lottery? No, it doesn't. The sins of your brother are not your sins, I think is the age-old term. In this case, your cousin, no, it doesn't make any difference. Now, you're probably talking about immigration problems, right? It doesn't make any difference what your cousin does, right? And so, no, just make sure you follow the laws, okay? If I use AI to set my background white on my photo, I'm going to be disqualified. No, not necessarily. It depends how it's done, right? AI and background replacement tools are getting much, much better, to the point where the background can be replaced without disturbing the features of your face. In the old days, you would see sort of bits of the background peeking through hair, and you would see bits of the ears cut off, and you would see digital editing around the face and that sort of thing that made it very obvious that you had edited the photo, and in fact during that editing you had changed the appearance of yourself, right? And that will cause disqualification. On the other hand, a very well done background replacement, switching a background from blue to white or whatever, won't cause disqualification, because if it's done properly, it's not noticeable at all. And people read the instructions, and I know 78 people are now about to email me saying, but it says you mustn't digitally alter the photo. I freaking know that. And I've been doing this for 12 years, and I'm telling you what works and what doesn't work, right? I'm not telling you silly things to get you disqualified. So over the years that I've been doing this, background replacement has become more possible. And so and so it can be done these days without causing any problems. Okay, and all photos essentially are digitally altered. I would argue, and I say that as a photographer. So the question is, what did you change in the photo? Not did you change something in the photo? Okay. Okay, DV 2024, crazy September. Visa bulletin was a blessing for me, AOS. So yes, for a lot of people in AOS have gone through in the last just few weeks. It's been amazing. I think probably about 250 people, which is going to be about 25% of all of the visas processed through AOS, will have gone through in the last few weeks. It's that much of a difference. Most of the AOS work has happened in the last few weeks. And some of those would be people like you. You go on to say, I lost hope with my 2024 EU 45K, but managed to adjustment status AOS. Thanks to everyone. Thank you. So I'm going to have an interview, I think next weekend, with Jessie Bless, who's one of the famous lawyers that deal with DV lottery in this country. He was one of the lawyers that fought admirably and was actually the lead counsel from on the Gomez case, which was the 2020 case. That case, by the way, got 7,000 visas issued during the month of September 2020. Without that case, literally without that case, 7,000 less people would have been issued their visas. So although we won that case for holding visas open for a while, and 2021 used that same process, and again we held visas open for a while. But in the end, the appeal went against us, and unfortunately, that fight is over. But I just want to point out that 2020 case caused thousands of people to get their visas. That was a huge deal. And also, the lawsuits have changed the way the government operates. Up until DV 2022, the government had almost never, only one other time that I know of, used all of the visas for the year. Because of the lawsuits in DV 2020 and 2021, when it came to DV 2022 and 2023, the government suddenly got really interested in issuing all the visas they could possibly issue. And so much so that they overissued in both of those years, right? So it's quite interesting. I think that is a direct result, frankly, from the lawsuit. So, many more people are still benefiting today because the people who run the DV lottery are taking it a lot more seriously now, because they know that if they don't do the right job, there are lawyers out there waiting to jump on them and beat them, if necessary, from a legal point of view, for not doing the job correctly. Okay, so I'm going to be forever grateful to those lawyers such as Chuck Cook, Jessie Bless, Curtis Morrison, and plenty of others. There are others too. That fought so hard for DV lottery winners in 2020 and 2021, and continued to fight that fight up until just literally the last few weeks. Okay, so but anyway, quick digression there. I hope you don't mind, but congratulations to you. I'm glad you got through. That was it shouldn't have happened, but I'm glad it did. Jesus Lord, good Lord, we are blessed. I should cross myself or something. I don't know. We got Jesus Lord on the call here. That's awesome. I didn't know you would need a green card, but that's awesome. Happy to help you, sir. Hello, sir. Our case was unlocked, but we could not edit or do any update on it. Please guide us. 2025 AF5K. Can't you just water into wine? I mean, I'm sure with your connections, you could probably just correct the DS260 without unlocking. You could probably just do something like that, right? Well, I'm sort of so close to edging on blasphemy here. It's bad. Our case was unlocked, but we could not edit or do any update. What could you not edit? If your case is unlocked, you should have been able to do any update, apart from one thing. There's one thing on the DS260 that even when it's unlocked, you can't change, and that is the original embassy that you selected for your case. That is the one thing. There's a drop-down list of embassies, and you can't change that ever after the first selection. Not even KCC can change that. So it's not going to be changed. If that's what you're talking about, then yeah, you can't change it. If you're trying to change some other data field, like your name, your date of birth, your address, or anything else, those should all be changeable if your case truly is unlocked. And the way to tell whether it's unlocked or not is if the form says completed, when you're going into the DS260 system and it says completed, that means locked. Okay. So if it doesn't say completed, then it's not unlocked, right? Okay. What exactly determines your interviewing embassy? Is it the country where you live today, as indicated on your initial DV entry, or is it the location you fill in your DS260? It's the latter. It's where you live today. It doesn't matter where you entered from, right? Maybe you were living in Peru when you entered the lottery, right? And maybe now you live in Buenos Aires or something. Well, so you'll be interviewed in Buenos Aires in Argentina because you live there now, and that's what you would enter on your DS260 when you fill that in. And so you used to live in Peru, you now live in Argentina. You'll be interviewed in Argentina. It's based mainly on your current address. Okay. There is also some impact of the drop-down location when you choose the embassy, but in many cases that selection is ignored in favor of where you live. Okay, so that's just something you need to be aware of. Okay. Is Paris embassy performing well? They do okay. Not bad. They're not on my bad list. They're doing okay. I wouldn't say they're amazing in terms of performance. They're just okay. All right. Hello, Simon. DV25 winner from Ethiopia, AF30K. Should I wait or change embassy? You should probably change your embassy. That's a really dangerous range for Ethiopia. What will happen is this. Or let me explain what happened in DV 2024 people at your sort of case number range. What happened is it's a low enough number that you'll get locked into to that embassy before you get information that makes it clear that that embassy is going to let you down. In DV 2024, there were people that became current, and I was screaming, and I seriously mean screaming. I was screaming, about Addis Ababa. And from January of 24, I was telling people to get the hell out of that embassy, to find some other way. Literally at that time, the only choice you had really was to move, physically move, but to get out of that location. But if people didn't listen to me and they waited too long, then their number became current and they got locked into Addis Ababa. And Addis stopped interviewing cases at about 29,500 or something, or 30,000, about that point, very close to your number now, right? And so it's a very risky point. It's a low enough number that you could become current. Conceivably, you could maybe become current in the next visa bulletin, but I would say that's unlikely to happen. But you could become current, let's say, in the visa bulletin that is published in December, let's say, and that would be the visa bulletin that covers February interviews. So that's pretty extended through the year, right? And we won't have the data that proves that Addis Ababa is doing a good job or a bad job until January the 1st. So you should absolutely move before that point happens, right? You don't want to get locked into that embassy. Typically, you move embassies by moving address. You can use also, in some cases, people are starting to get good success with the new FAM policy, which I wrote about some months ago, which is about physical presence. If you are physically present in a country, you can justify getting moved to that country. But if you're locked into an embassy, you can't. You can't do that. You can't change the address on your DS260, and you can't convince KCC to switch embassies for you, and so then you're screwed. So in your case, Tewodros, is it? Tewodros. I would suggest you get the hell out of Ethiopia, frankly. Yeah, and if you happen to have family in a good country nearby, move there. Okay. Good day, sir. Can you please explain how the case numbers are allocated? If 50K African were selected, then how come the case number goes right up to 120K if 50K people were selected? Funnily enough, I'm about to record a video that briefly explains that. But basically, here's the very rough process, which I think will be interesting to people that haven't been involved in the DV lottery before. In Africa, there would be something like 10 million entries, right? I'm not kidding. Could be about that number of entries, right? So that's 10 million different people that enter the lottery. Maybe it'll only be 8 million or 9 million or whatever else. But whatever number it is, those people are all jumbled up, all of them, regardless of whatever they've put on the form, right? So it doesn't matter whether those people are single or married or whether they have a high education or low education or what country they're from or anything else. Everybody within one region, is all jumbled up, and every single entry is numbered starting from 1 to, let's say, 10 million, right? There'll be a case number 10 million, right? And so everybody's now got a number. What they do is in DV 2024, they took the first 122,000 numbers, the top 122,000, and they said, okay, all those people are our initial selection. But then they go through those 120,000 and they start deleting cases. They disqualify cases where those people didn't take the photo properly, or where those people had committed some sort of fraud, like multiple entries, perhaps were banned from previous year's entries, or other things that they've done, other information that KCC and others can find, right? And so they do an initial sweep through, and that meant that there were only about 30,000 entries left from the first 120,000 case numbers, right? And it's literally that sort of number. It's like 75% of the cases in Africa were disqualified even before the announcement of the results. Then the results are announced, and the 30,000 people that were selected are happy. They see their selection letter. And the 50,000 numbers that you're talking about would include the derivatives for those 30,000 cases. So even though there's 50,000 people, there would still only be about 30,000 cases. And there's a derivative, average number of derivatives, which in Africa is about 1.75, right? So for every single case, there are 1.75 people. So if there were 50,000 selectees, and you divide, and selectees, when they announce the selectees, by the way, includes derivatives. So if you divide the 50,000 by 1.75, you get the number of cases that we have, right? So that's how it works. I've done much longer videos that explain that in much more detail, but that's basically the process. That's how it works. And if you've been listening, you've learned a couple of things that a lot of people still think think is some other way. Like, people, I've had arguments with people who have YouTube channels, who say that the selectees get their own case numbers. Completely idiotic, stupid statements to make. But there are people that think like that. Some stupid woman doing a cleaning channel in, I can't remember, the Philippines or something. And she was really mean to someone about that, and so I sort of got involved in that argument and said, no, you're wrong. It's not the number of selectees includes derivatives, and the number of case numbers is just case numbers, not derivatives. Anyway, well, there you go. So another question. Let's see. With which email KCC will on contact with the winners? Is it the one on the registration or the one on the DS260? It's the latter, the DS260. Okay. Friend of mine get a call of the embassy to get his passport on Monday, but the status in SIAC is 221G. Wow. I hope your friend is going to get his ass down there with his passport in his hand first thing in the morning, because they obviously want to issue the visa, which is awesome news. But he needs to get his passport there. Now, in reality, he should just drop that off. The thing is, they're gonna tell him to get there first thing in the morning, I'm sure, and he should do. He should be up, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he should be waiting outside the embassy at 6 o'clock in the morning with his passport in his hand, right? He should take that seriously, because that's like amazing opportunity. And so now, in reality, they may only approve the visa that day. They can print the visa the following day, on the 1st or the 2nd of October. It doesn't matter. But what they have to do is approve the visa on that day. And so they've asked him to get there with his passport. Strictly speaking, they don't need his passport. They could just print the visa anyway. But they want to see if he's serious, right? So they want to get him to go down there. So he should do that. Okay. Okay. Hair by Dennis. Wow. So your cousin got arrested. No, that doesn't affect your lottery thing either. I hope you're doing well. Just wanted to thank you for all your help with DV matters. Really appreciate it. Thank you for that kind message. Appreciate that. Let's see. Live from California. What advice do you have for new immigrants concerning finances? Man, that's interesting. You asked that. Why does the money feel like it's have its true value? Mr. Me, I'm about to produce, or not produce, but publish some videos exactly on money matters. The reason is, although I'm really more focused on immigration, I'm interested in immigrants, particularly those from the DV lottery, and having a good life in America. And if you live in America like Americans live in America, you won't have a good life. You only have to Google, people that find themselves getting into debt, etc., and go and talk to people. And they listen to people such as Dave Ramsey and others that explain how to Americans how to get out of debt. So the worst thing you can do with money is to get into debt. So if by saying, what does money feel like it's having its true value? If what you're saying is that you're paying for things with cash, that's a good thing for now, right? I do recommend that you start using credit cards and other things, and I will explain that in some of these videos. But for now, my best advice to you, the absolute single most valuable piece of advice, is don't get into debt. Don't go and get a car loan. Don't go and get a loan or credit cards that put you into debt. You can get by with almost no money if you are prepared to be a bit humble and instead of buying a brand new car or whatever, or a used but quite new car with finance, go buy a nice, reasonable car at $5,000, $10,000. You'll be able to drive that car for 5 years, and instead of having a $500 a month car payment or $1,000 a month car payment that will make you poor and make somebody else rich, instead of having that, you could be saving money towards your next car, which you'll pay cash, or maybe you'll have a nicer car then. But you shouldn't be buying big expensive items like cars, sofas, and that sort of thing, unless you truly are fairly wealthy. Poor people borrow money, and borrowing money keeps you poor. It's like a cycle, right? So I definitely want you to listen to that piece of advice about money, and watch out for a series of videos that I'm creating now, that I'll publish over the next few weeks that will deal with this in more detail, because Americans need to learn how to get out of debt. But as a new immigrant, the easiest way to get out of debt is not get into debt in the first place. Okay, work hard and earn more than you spend, save some money, and be careful with money, and all of that will lead to a better life. I promise you, it's a much better situation to be in. You'll be amazed how comforting it is when I wake up in the morning and I know that all of my little dollars that I got invested in places have been out working for me all night. They've been out and they've been collecting other dollars, and they've been getting their friends together. And I just see, my investments growing over years, etc. And I don't have to worry. And so it makes a big difference, right? And I'm able to do that because I'm completely debt free. I don't have car loans. I have $150,000 worth of cars sitting on the drive. and there's no debt on any of them. I have a $2.5 million house. Yes, I have a mortgage on that, but I don't mind paying on a mortgage because the property is increasing in value. It is a liability, technically. A house is a liability, but it's about the only liability that I truly believe in you investing in. And other investments you make should always be in assets. Right? So anyway, we'll talk about money. We'll talk about money, Mr. Me. You make sure you're subscribed, and you'll see my videos soon. Okay. Let me try and speed up with some of these questions because I wasn't going to do a very long session today. But anyway, we'll see. If you got an interview and put them on 221G, can you go back to your home country until they approve? Yes, you can. It just might cause a delay in issuance later on, right? Because you've got to come back to that country, give them the passport and so on. Hello, Britt. Is there a problem if, while applying for DV, you skip some of the optional questions? Optional questions? What the fuck are you talking about? There are no optional questions in the DV entry, right? You answer the damn questions. Although they're obviously optional. What do you mean optional? What optional? What optional questions? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm trying to think what questions you think are optional. I mean, there are questions like, are you married, and you have to put your marital status down. That's not optional, right? You have to put your marital status. And if you're married, you have to put your spouse in the form. That's not optional. If you've got children, it's not optional whether to include them or not, right? You have to put an address. That's not optional. What the hell do you think is optional, right? What are you talking about? Please let me know what questions you think are optional. I honestly, I'm trying to think through the form, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there are any optional questions. There's one, actually, which is question number 6, I think, which is about the country of chargeability, if your country of chargeability is not your place of birth, right? Well, that's not really an optional. That's a 2-part question. Question 5 and question 6 are related to each other. That's to do with the place of birth or the country of chargeability if you are not claiming your place of birth as your country of chargeability. But that's not optional, right? That's not what I call optional. Anyway, you let me know. Enter in the chat. What do you think is optional? I'll try and find your question later. DV 2025, that's good. 14,000 Nairobi. When should we expect the 2NL? I don't know. You have to wait and see. 29K in Sierra Leone, but you didn't tell me your year. But I'm going to assume your DV 2025 based on your question, but please do give me your year. Can you please make an estimated time when I'll be current based on the last visa bulletin? Probably, the next visa bulletin will be published in October. You probably won't be current in that one. You probably won't be current in the one for November, probably not. And you'll probably be current in the December one, which is for February interview. So your interview could be around about February, maybe March of next year. Okay. My case, I-485, was transferred to my local field office, and I was last reviewed by agent on the 26th. By your experience, would it be possible to receive a decision on Monday? Yes, you can get a decision on Monday. They do try and clear up the work, and we've seen a lot of that in adjustment to status cases in the last few days. So yeah, it's certainly possible. If you have a contact number for them, if you have an email for them, do contact them and try and get them to hurry up. How many visas though? Roughly about 450. If they include adjustment of status, which it looks like they have this year. So yeah, about 450 are left for Monday. And there are over 2,000 people in 221G. So in theory, they could issue some more of those and they could get very close to the limit, or they may not hit the limit. There's no legal requirement that says they have to hit the limit. Okay. Any news on Liberia? No news. Philip, good afternoon. How are you? Very well, Philip. Okay. Bikash says, winner of 2025, case number AS21K. Is there any chance for interview? It really is too early for us to say whether you have a chance at that case number or not, right? We don't know the distribution of numbers We think Asia goes up to about case number 30,000, based on the what's the word? The poll. Based on the poll that we conducted, we think that Asia number goes up to about 30,000. But we don't know the distribution of the numbers, the shape of the numbers, or the density per thousand in each of those number ranges between 1 and 30,000. So I don't know how many people yet will be in your will be before you. Also, your country is important. If you're from Iran or from Nepal, I'd be interested in hearing. I should imagine you might be from Nepal. I don't know what the cutoff numbers for Nepal and Iran are yet, so we'll have to see. Okay. Hello, sir. I've been trying for the green card, but I know this time God will open the ways. Wow, lovely. I hope He does for you, or she, God. God may be a she, right? Will it be okay to transfer a case with a visit visa? Some embassies have accepted that. They haven't insisted on a full permanent, live and work visa. They have accepted a visitor's visa, but they do ask questions about, okay, will you be able to remain in this location for the whole period of time to process the case, which can be months, right? And so visitors visas lasting months at a time might be a bit difficult, but you could look into it. I and my wife did customary marriage now with 2 kids. How should we apply for DV 2026? This is a very difficult, tricky question. You really need to know whether your customary marriage, this is very similar to what I explained to our friend earlier. You need to know whether the customary marriage in your country carries legal status or not. In some countries, there's a requirement that says, yes, you can do a customary marriage, but you have to then register it with a civil authority within some period of time, right? If you haven't done that second step, then your marriage isn't legally accepted or recognized in your country, and therefore you are unmarried, right? But if you're in a country where customary marriage carries legal weight, and you want to defend that, then you can go and say you're married. But I would say in general, you must only really claim to be married if you are legally married. And by legal marriage, it normally is a separate service to the customary marriage. Okay. Otherwise, just enter as single. And it's often said that you have double the chance if you're married, because if you're married, both you and your spouse can both do an entry, right? Well, if you're 2 single people, you can both do an entry as well. So really, you don't lose anything by saying that you're single if you are single, right? You lose a lot if you say you're single and actually you're married, or if you say you're married and actually you're single, you lose the whole thing. But 2 people can enter twice, right? 2 people can each enter. If they're married, they also list their derivative, their spouse. But if a single person wins the lottery, that person can get married and then include the spouse and the kids and everything else, right? You must list your kids, whether you're entering single or married, by the way. Must always mention the kids. If your kids are under 21, unmarried, they must be on your case. Actually, let me go back. Mantha, I'm going to get to you in a minute. But let me just stress this on the DV entry. If you have kids, or if you married and therefore have stepkids, or if you've adopted kids, any of those ways, right? If those kids are under 21 and unmarried, they have to be listed on your DV entry. Not listing a child that should be on your entry will get you disqualified 100% of the time, right? So, and people that acquire kids through marriage don't understand sometimes that they are, let's say your spouse has 2 kids, let's say you have 3 kids and you got married. That means you have 5 kids and your spouse has 5 kids, and you both have to list all those 5 kids on your DV entry, unless the kids are already over 21 or they're under 21 but they got married. Okay, so please do be careful with that. Mantha, pleased to see you. Is a recently issued birth certificate a problem with consular interview? No. I lost years ago and never needed it. Not a problem. Most countries and issuing authorities have the ability to replace a lost birth certificate. It's very common to lose a birth certificate, right? I still have mine because my mum looked after mine, so I have mine even though I'm really old. But you can get copies. They're generally called extracts. Copies of your birth certificate from the issuing authority. Depending on the country, there'll be a different process. So no, not a problem. You can use that copy as long as it's an official copy and as it's sometimes called an extract from the Registry of Births and Deaths. Okay. Hi, Simon. Can you explain the process of selection with timeline from the date of filing the form to the results? Yeah, so I think I already did. The process of selection is what I said. Everybody gets a number. Every entry gets a number. They jumble up all the cases, assign everybody a number so that everybody is in numeric order. And then the winners are chosen from the first 100,000 numbers, let's say in Africa, or the first 50,000 numbers, let's say in Europe, and so on, right? And then they knock out a bunch of those winners. That's basically what happens. They knock people out or disqualify people before the results are announced based on usually bad photos. That's the most common reason. Amazing, huh? Are DS260s opened according to their submission date? Can you tell me what the process in details, how they're processed? DS260s are open for the first time in submission date order. So cases submitted on May 10th will have been opened before those on May 11th, right? But opening doesn't mean that they'll be processed in like one day, right? So what can happen is the May 11th entry may be after the May 10th entry, but the May 10th entry takes longer to process than the May 11th entry. And so in that way, the day that you submit, in a sense, doesn't matter. It's like how fast can your DS260 be processed? That sometimes can be important. So obviously you want to submit your DS260 early if you can, but then understand some cases take longer to process, and it can be significantly longer in some cases. Some cases take months to process, whereas other cases take weeks. It is possible that they may change the way that they've processed things in the past. There is a new director of KCC now, and it's possible that they may be changing procedures or may have changed procedures with the way that they process DS260s. I have seen a couple of things that tell me they have a way of accelerating some cases. So I don't want to go into too much of that until I've got concrete proof, but it's possible that some changes are afoot. We'll see. All right. Hello, I'm DV 2025 EU 23K winner in Georgia. Do I have good enough chances to not register for DV 2026? Why wouldn't you register for DV 26? Why even question that? Right? You don't know what's going to happen, right? Let's say Trump wins and Trump decides to do something stupid. He could easily do something stupid because he's a stupid man and advised by stupid people. There's no harm in you entering. You go on to say you don't want to take someone else's chance if I already have a good enough one. It doesn't matter. If you're selected again, right, which will be wonderful, but then you find your 2023, 2025 cases processed, then you simply wouldn't process. And there'll be a backup. There'll be someone behind you waiting for your interview. So it doesn't matter that you've been selected. They over-select people, right? And so there will be somebody else who will very happily take your place in line because you process through 25. So don't question it. Just enter again. Give yourself a backup. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if there's going to be a pandemic. You don't know if there's going to be a moron in the White House. You don't know if your financial position drastically changes for a while, so you can't travel to the US. You don't know, right? You don't know those things. So enter again. Why not? It's good to have a backup plan. Okay. When should I expect an interview? Since 2NLs are issued since no 2NLs are issued, well, I don't know. You'll just have to wait and see. You've already said that you believe no 2NLs are being issued from Nairobi. So why would you tell me? Or why would you ask me to predict when you will get your 2NL if you know they're not being sent? Hi, sir. I'm winner of DV2025 AF61K. Is there any chance Nairobi Embassy? Because Nairobi Embassy hasn't. What is this with Nairobi Embassy? Oh dear. It seems they will go slowly. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Let me just say it again. Let me say it a third time. It is ridiculous to be making assumptions about how Nairobi Embassy or any other embassy apart from the ones that I speculate about, how they're going to perform. At this time of the year, the October hasn't even started yet, and you're already giving up on Nairobi. What the hell? Come on. Nairobi Embassy should be, I hope, should be for another year. Should be a good embassy, but we'll see. But you certainly won't give up on any embassy in September. You wait until October, November, December has come around, and you wait until we've got the data, and then you make a judgment. You see, okay, are they behaving normally? And with your number, you'll have plenty of time to figure out whether you should move or not. But don't start dicking around and moving now, because you're jumping to a silly conclusion with absolutely no data. You've got no data. You've only got a few other people that are winding you up on the internet. And you're all talking to each other and you're filling your heads full of stupid thoughts. Don't do it, right? Stop all that madness and just wait until we've got data. And we'll have data in January, right? We have plenty of time. You're not going to be current until the middle of next year. So why are you worried about this now? Relax, dude, relax. I'm 2025 winner with case number AF55K from Nairobi. It's like everybody in Nairobi suddenly got on the call at the same time. If I win, I can get my husband with myself. Yes, you can get your husband with yourself if you listed your husband on the entry, or you got married after the entry. That's fine. Charlotte, I think the UK can apply for 2026. Is this correct? Yes, it is, Charlotte. You've asked about this before. Yeah, UK's in. Cuba is out, sadly. Cuba is out. England is still in, or UK. UK is still in. Great Britain is still in. Okay. Why is Nigeria out, sir? Nigeria is out because there are enough people from Nigeria that are emigrating to the USA every year, so that they do not need to be included in the diversity visa lottery. The diversity visa lottery, which is what DV is a chance for countries that are underrepresented by other immigration. The other immigration is family-based and employment-based and that sort of thing. And so over a previous 5-year rolling window, there were enough people from Nigeria in employment-based and family-based categories that there were more than 50,000 people from Nigeria that got green cards through other programs. And therefore, Nigeria is not included and hasn't been included in the DV lottery for some years. That's unlikely to change because Nigerian emigration is quite large. So it probably won't change ever. I don't think they'll ever go backwards. And obviously, a country that has more and more people from that country in America already becoming citizens and that sort of thing will have more and more people being sponsored back, from Nigeria to come and join them, let's say. So they're likely to increase the numbers. Great Britain or the UK became eligible again because of COVID. It sort of took the 5-year rolling window slightly below the 50,000 number, and it will stay. It'll stay in as an eligible country probably for another year, maybe 2 years more. We'll see. Based on the dip it took. There was a dip for about 18 months where immigration was vastly reduced. So that shook things up a bit. Okay. AF 18290 from Addis. Do I have a chance for 2NL? If we can see 2024 statistics, DV statistics of Addis Ababa boss. Yeah, you can see the statistics at Zarthisius's site. So just Google DV charts, and you'll be able to see the 2024 stats. Addis was a risky embassy in DV24. The case numbers up to 120,000 got current for the region. Addis only went up to about 30,000. So you've got to be a little bit cautious with them. Your number's probably going to be okay regardless, right? Whatever happens. But Addis will probably be slower. So you'll wait longer if you stay at Addis. That's basically what will happen. Do you need a passport before you apply? No, you don't. When Greencard registration will start? On the 2nd. That's Wednesday of this week. Happy Saturday. I need to know my case status from Ethiopian case 2025 AF 19130. Please, thanks. Your case status is you're waiting to become current. And if you're in Ethiopia, Addis, you're probably going to wait for several months more before you can get an interview. But if you're patient, you should get an interview there. Okay. The visa 2024 finish year fiscal. No, the fiscal year finishes on Monday, the 30th. There are still some visas available for DV 2024. Not very many, about 450. And they will probably issue another 100 or 200 towards that number on Monday, I would imagine. We'll see. Okay. If you're a student, you can enter. Thanks, Simon. Question about marriage is answered before you reach to it. Okay, good. Addis, shall I unlock before I have the passport of my newborn? Can I present the passport at the interview? Yeah, you don't have to wait for to get a passport for a child, particularly. What you do is if you have a national identity card for that child that has an identity number, some sort of number. You can list that on the DS260. If you don't have that, just put in the passport number from one of the parents, and you'll replace it, with the real passport and passport number at the interview. Okay. Is it okay to apply with a polygamous marriage? Polygamy is accepted in my country. Will the embassies accept such an entry? No. Basically, the way bigamy is not permitted. It's called bigamy. The crime. Polygamy is the legal practice in some countries of having multiple wives or spouses. I wonder if that's interesting. Can a woman have multiple husbands? Interesting, huh? But anyway, it's normally wives, right? Multiple wives. With multiple wives, you get multiple mother-in-laws. Why the hell would you want that? It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway. So that polygamy is the practice of marrying multiple times, right? If that's against the law, that is a crime called bigamy, and bigamy is what we talk about in America because polygamy is not legal in America. It's not legal for immigration purposes. So the way that's handled is you marry people in an order. The first person you married, that marriage is considered real, genuine, and every subsequent marriage without a termination of the marriage through death or divorce or whatever, without a termination of the marriage, other marriages are invalid as far as immigration is concerned. So if your favorite wife is your wife number 4, right, and you are like, no, 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to leave them back at home, I'm just going to go with number 4, then you are guaranteed to be disqualified, right? Because you are presenting yourself as married to a person that you are not technically married to because your marriage is invalid in the eyes of US immigration, right? That's how you need to think about it. It might be legal in your country, and you should probably stay in your country if you want to continue practicing that, because it's not legal over here. You're not going to bring all of those wives with you. So what are you going to do? You're going to leave those wives? It doesn't seem like the right thing to do, to be honest. But anyway, if you were going to enter, you could only enter with the first wife, right? And that's probably the one that you're most tired of, right? Because you apparently thought you needed to marry another couple of times. So why would you do that? Look at this. I've got glasses up the wazoo here. Okay, so I hope that covers polygamy for you. Do you need a passport before you apply? No. Watching live Liberia. Good. Adam says, hi, how are you, Brit? Number is AF2600. Sent an email, sent KCC an email about the progress of my DV apply. They say to me, your case number is now current for interview processing. Is that meant it's scheduled near? Right. So when they send a letter, we refer to that as stage 4. When KCC give you an email reply that says you are current for interview processing, that means 2 things have happened. Number 1, your cases become current. Your case number is below the number that is shown for your region or for your country on the visa bulletin. It's below that number, and so your number is current. That's what that means. The other part of it is that your DS-260 is processed. You cannot receive the letter that says you're current for interview processing, stage 4, unless both of those things are true. Your DS-260 is processed and your case number is current, right? Okay. Why did you get that and why did you not get a 2NL? Well, there can be a couple of reasons for that. It could be that your embassy has set a capacity which is lower than is needed, so that everybody in the month or months that people are ready and they're in stage 4 cannot be accommodated in that particular month, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say you're at Nairobi embassy, and let's say these rumors are true that so far they haven't accepted any cases. The cases that are being lined up, or let's say they've only accepted, let's say 10 cases for October and 10 cases for November, right? If you're case number 21, you're 21st in the order of cases that became current for interview processing, stage 4, then you're going to wait because the capacity of the embassy is lower than the number of people they've got waiting. Okay. Now that's okay. They'll get to you when they get to you, right? And for most people, fingers crossed, that's okay. If you're in one of the awful embassies, which is like Accra, Ankara, or potentially Addis Ababa, then you have to think about this a little bit more, because those embassies have recently been destroying people's chances through not scheduling enough people, right? But if you're in one of the more normal embassies that is behaving more normally, then it's probably just a capacity problem, but it will get resolved. The other way that you can get that is not so much a capacity problem as such. It's just the timing of when your DS-260 was processed. You missed the boat, basically, and you will be scheduled in the next available batch, right? So it's not such a big deal. Okay. Max in Frankfurt, do you think I'll get a date this year? Are 2NL sent in batches or by regional embassy? I heard Paris has already sent some out. Thanks. Too many questions and not clear enough. You're not being very clear in your questions. So do you think I'll get a date this year? How the hell would I know? You haven't told me your case number, your region, anything, nothing, right? So I don't know. Will you get a date this year? I don't know. Do you meet a lot of girls, Max? Maybe you'll get a date this year, but I have no idea what you're talking about, really. Are 2NL sent in batches or by region or embassy? Typically, they're sent. There'll be a batch for an embassy. So everybody at Nairobi, for example, on the same day, they'll get the 2NLs, roughly. That's how it works. I heard Paris has already sent some out. Yeah, bear in mind, no embassy sends 2NLs. 2NLs don't come from the embassy. They are sent from KCC, and they are scheduling at the embassy. So yes, Paris has probably had some already. Frankfurt has probably had some already. They have sent 2NLs out, 4 cases in all regions, and for the month of October and November. There are some embassies that I'm sure have not had some cases yet. Maybe Frankfurt's among them. We don't know. Okay. Ankara. Oh, okay. AS5000 Ankara. My wife is the mean applicant. Mean applicant. She's the mean one. She's grumpy. Oh, you don't want to be with a grumpy wife. If she's mean to you, you should probably find a different wife. Anyway, oh, you mean main applicant? Sorry, I see what you mean. English language is such fun, isn't it? I have a student visa from Germany to go. Can I only change my interview to Germany and my wife stay at the same time in Accra? No. So you don't get your own interviews. The interview will be arranged for the mean applicant, right? The grumpiest applicant, the main applicant. So your wife will need the appointment, and you'll attend her appointment, right? That's how that works. So if she were able, for example, to say she lives in Germany with you, then that might be a good way to get an interview in Germany. Because I can tell you at AS5000, you're going to wait a long time. You'll probably be okay in the end, but you're going to wait a long time for Ankara. So, you have to think about that. Okay. I really want to try this time around, sir. Well, you try then. Okay. Good luck. Lucy, have you received 2NL? All right, that's a question for someone else. Philip, I used a paid iOS app to make photos. That app removed background and I got selected. Thank you, Philip. That's useful feedback. I am recommending. So ideally, people only have to take a cell phone photo in front of a white background, and then it's very, very easy to create their own photo. And I'm going to show people how to do that. I'm going to record a video here in a few minutes as soon as I finish this live session. But in lieu of that, if you can't get a white background, then using one of these apps that removes the background is okay, as you've proven, Philip, and I appreciate you pointing that out. And I've known lots of people do the same thing. So yeah, it's okay to do that. Okay, let me just scan through about an hour now, so I'm going to try and end this very soon. But I did want to just find that gentleman that asked a question earlier. Who was that? Oh, this is Philip. Use passport size photo maker. Okay, that's for iOS. That's an Apple iPhone. The iPhone may not be very popular outside of the USA and Europe, in less wealthy countries. It might be less, used. There are some web pages. There are some apps. Generally, you should be paying something between about $5 and $10 per photo. Generally speaking, if you have to pay for an app. Although if you can get an app and it lets you do multiple photos, that's kind of a good way of doing things. You can do that for all of your family members. That's kind of neat, right? Okay. Thank you. Welcome to. I guess that's probably why we're getting so many people from Nairobi, right? Okay. Let me just. Let me see if there's some good questions here. I'm gonna create a couple of videos today. One on the photo thing, how you create your own photo, and the other on the entry process itself. There's a step-by-step for entering the lottery. So I'll be publishing both of those videos probably today and tomorrow, something like that. I'll have to figure out that, but yes, if people are subscribed, they'll see those videos popped up fairly soon. That's the two things that I consider important. Number one is to talk through the entry form so that you can answer the questions correctly, how you should do that. I'm going to create a video on that. I do that every year. And the other one is about the photo. The photo is the single biggest reason that people get disqualified in that initial draw process. And so I'll show people how to create a photo that will be acceptable. Okay. Clem says, I have a question about the photo requirements. If my photo is approved by the official photo checking tool, it means all good with that, right? Can the visa officer see that picture? No. So the official photo checking tool is a really good tool to use. It does a nice crop. I'm going to show that in today's video. It does a nice crop at the right size. It puts your face in the right place and everything else. So it does a good job. But that doesn't mean that you can be guaranteed to get through, because you might mix up the photos. You may have your spouse and yourself, and you swap those photos around. If you do that, you will be disqualified. If let's say you're turned to one side in the photo, I've seen the photo tool approve photos like that when actually it will be disqualified. So no, you can't 100% trust the official photo checking tool. You have to be a little bit careful, but it's common sense, right? If you're looking, you should be looking like this, straight at the camera. You don't smile, you don't wear a hat, you don't wear a scarf, you don't turn your head. It's common sense. Honestly, I struggle to understand how many people screw this up year after year after year. And we're talking many, many thousands, millions of people screw it up, literally. So I don't understand how, but yeah, I should have some sort of website where people can upload their crappy photos, and we can see all of the photos that people think were sensible photos to take. And I'm sure, just by the numbers, probably half of them are just disastrous, right? Okay. Let's see. Question here. Can one do AOS from J1 visa with a 2-year restriction? It can be difficult. Depends on the timing. It depends on whether you can get a waiver or not. But the 2-year restriction is a big deal. The only sort of positive is that you can delay your process for quite some time in DV lottery. So if you're about to enter DV 2026, the results will come out in May. The first interviews will start in October, but the last interviews for that will happen in September. So that's almost a 2-year period. So if you just started 3 or 4 months ago, a J1 visa 2-year period, then you're probably going to be okay, because you will finish your 2-year sort of jail before you need to process your case, right? So you can be okay. Okay, quick. I asked someone to come back with some more information, but no. Okay, this will be the last question. It's kind of an interesting one. A child of 18 years old won a green card. He is not married and has no children. Can he include his parents, brother, and sister in the case? No, he can't. Just the thing about kids, right? If you're adults but you've got children under 21 who are, let's say, between about 18 and 21, then mum and dad can both enter and put the spouse on. Each one of them can say the spouse is their derivative, and each one can also list the kids, right? Will have to list the kids. But a child of about 18 to 20, as long as that child isn't over 21, can be a derivative on the parents' case and can enter for themselves, right? And so that child could have basically 3 entries. They could be a derivative to both the parents and get their own entry as well. In your case, you're asking about someone who won the green card, they won the lottery. Can they then include their parents and their siblings and everything else? No, none of that. Your ability to sponsor your parents, you have to wait until you're a citizen, basically. So it's 5 years after you've become a green card holder and live in the USA. Then you will be able to sponsor your parents. Sponsoring a sibling is very slow, very, very slow. Takes a long time. The bringing the parents is possible. There is a a family-based process, but it will take you have to become a citizen first in order to do that. Okay, you can't include them in the process. All right, everybody, we'll call that a day. I was hoping to see that that other update, but I've scanned through and I couldn't see it. So I'm sorry if I asked someone to give me more information, but can't see it. So never mind, we'll call that a day. I'm going to go and record a couple of videos for you on how to enter the DV 2026. I hope this session has been helpful for you. DV 2024 ends on Monday. Over 54,000 people have already been issued with visas. I love that. That's awesome. I always wonder. I wonder at night times what amazing things those 54,000 people will achieve in America. What wonderful dreams they will have. What wonderful lives they will create. Not everyone will. I'm not saying that it's totally easy to come to America and make all your dreams turn into wonderful things. It's tough. It's not easy, but there are a lot of people who have been through this process that come to America and make very successful lives, and I think that's awesome. And they could do amazing things in America, and their kids could do amazing things in America. It's a place of opportunity. So I'm pleased to be a part of that, and I'm proud to be able to help people. So anyway, all right, everybody, thanks, and please do make sure you're subscribed, and hopefully, enter DV 2026. Maybe this year will be your year. All right, goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.